Welcome, everyone. I'm Doug Bender with I Am Second, and I have with me Chad Robichaux and Remi Adeleke. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having us.
I'm really excited to have the three of us, I guess a virtual room. We're in a virtual room together. So me and Remi, we've gone back quite a few years. Chad, we get to connect here. I'm really excited. Now, Chad, I want to start with you because when I was writing this book, your story, I feel like I learned something from you. Like a lot of people, I read the news and I know about PTSD, and I've read the articles and I'm generally familiar with it. But I felt like when I listened to you tell your story, I came to this sense of wow, I never really understood it like you're saying it. Do you feel like you still run into people who are like like not quite understanding what it is? Is that something you run into a lot?
Yeah, I do. I think, I think PTSD, and particularly even outside of just PTSD, life trauma, panic attacks, anxiety. I think people who have never experienced those things personally have a very hard time grasping the depth of, how dark those moments could be. And particularly even counselors. I deal with clinical care providers who counsel people all the time, and they still don't really even get it, how dark those moments could be, how hopeless you could feel. And which I think is why the work that I do today is very much peer-to-peer. I think peer-to-peer mentoring is really important for people who have been through hardships like that. You share their experiences and connect and have an empathy and compassion because we've been there before.
Yeah, that's really cool. There's a word you used in telling your story, just kind of your own journey with PTSD, that really resonated with me, and it was the word numb, and how you got to this place where you felt this numbness.
Yeah.
And that was new to me. And it really helped me understand a little bit. Is that a is that a common experience for a lot of folks working through PTSD or various forms of this? Is that something a lot of people experience?
Yeah, it is. And the more I learn, and I'm still learning every day. I'm on a kind of lifelong pursuit. If God's called me to minister to others who are struggling with this, and I want to know as much as I can. So I'm always learning from a spiritual side, and I'm always learning from a side of where I'm really studying the physiological effects and understanding from a mental health side what those things are. And one of the things I've really learned is that when your limbic system fires off and it shoots adrenaline and cortisol through your system, it happens in a second. It's like an explosion inside of you. And for me, I could feel it course through my veins. And, I've had panic attacks since the video, and you can feel it course through your veins, and it brings a kind of a surge of energy. And then your body starts getting numb in certain places. It usually starts in like my arms, and then it'll go in my face, my cheeks will go numb. And then my whole, my throat area begins to feel like I can't breathe. And that's a numbness in your throat. And so it's just a chemical, a physiological reaction that your body releases chemicals because it thinks it's in a fight or flight scenario. And which is those functions will work really well physiologically if you actually are in a life or death scenario. But if you're not, and you're sitting in your living room, it can feel very abnormal and very scary. And you can feel like you feel like you're literally going to die. And, so out of its context, it's terrible.
Wow, that's really cool. The ministry you run, it's called Mighty Oaks Warrior, and I couldn't be a bigger fan of it. You do a great work, and a lot of folks you are able to just really, changing lives. I can't. That's really what you're able to do. One of the things that I get asked a lot when I'm working with I Am Second, they're like, "How do you get all these people? Or how do you find these people?" And you two are an example of that. We found you, Chad, because we found Remi.
Yeah.
And it comes a lot of that way. We just, a friend of a friend of a friend. And Remi, your story, you're coming out of the military as well. You had quite the journey. Maybe take us back a little bit. What your story and how you even got into the military is just wild. But tell us a little bit how you ended up into the military.
Well, I ended up in the military because it was a decision that I made. I had been involved in a lot of, bad stuff, selling drugs and and running high level scams and just doing whatever I could do to make money. And I got into a deal with a drug dealer that went bad. I sold him some products that were supposed to last for a certain amount of time, and only lasted for a fraction of that time. And he kind of threatened my life essentially. And I made him his money back in the day. And then that was my wake up call. I was just like, hey, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of this game. I can't do this illegal game anymore. And for 6 months, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything as it related to the legal activity. I just tried to figure out, what am I going to do? I don't want to go to college. I don't want to do this. And then, in June, I just was laying in my bed and I just felt this presence. I felt this voice tell me that, I needed to leave. I needed to join the military. And so that's how the idea kind of came. And I kind of battled back and forth. And then I was like, the military, that's totally not who I am. It's totally contrary to the aspect of who I am. And that's when I decided, all right, I looked around my room and I said, nothing's going on. What else am I going to do? You've tried everything else and nothing's worked, why don't you try this? And I said, all right, let's see what happens. And that's essentially how I got into the Navy. And then that's what led me to the Navy. But when I went to go get my background check, my recruiter found out I had 2 warrants out for my arrest. I had a warrant in New York and a warrant in New Jersey. And she was from the Bronx. And she just knew that, hey, nobody else would give me a shot. So she took me to both judges and advocated on my behalf, got my warrants cleared, got my record expunged. And that's how I ended up, getting to the Navy.
Wow. And, the other, I was telling somebody the other day, I said, I can't remember how it came up. I said, yeah, I know a Nigerian prince. Yeah. I know somebody, and I named you, and I said, no, he has a really cool story. And I told a little bit of your story because you have such a cool story. But one of the things you tell that you describe in the book is just how your lineage, going all the way back to Nigeria, and how you view your lineage now with God as a child of God, the King of the universe. You are now another kind of royalty. Tell me about, what did it feel like when you really first started to grasp what it means to be in the family of God? What did that do for you as someone that, you had a lot of searching for fatherhood kind of stuff in your life? What did it mean when you started to grasp this idea of who God really is to you?
It changed everything, changed everything. It's hard for me to pinpoint one specific thing because, my mindset changed. I gained more in failures. I looked at failures differently. I think that was one of the biggest changes is, when you have a failure, a setback, or, you get your heart broken, whatever, all these things that come your way, you always, it's when I didn't have the Lord, I would just, go into a dark place. But when I had the Lord in my life and I was walking with him, it was just like, all right, I know that, this is happening for a reason, and, Romans 8:28 says that we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes for them. And so that's how I live my life, from that point, even now is, everything works together for the good, everything. And even the bad things, the horrific things in my life, like, looking back on my story, my dad died when I was 5, and then coming to the States and, the life that I had, at that time, it was all bad. But, looking back on it, I'm grateful for the way things happened because I wouldn't be the man that I am today if all of those things, those bad things that happened to me, my father dying, us going from rich to poor and all of these things, if those things didn't happen, I would be a different man, So, that's the one thing I can really pinpoint right now is that changes my whole outlook, my perspective on life changed. And, that perspective is powerful, because when Christ is your perspective, there's so much peace that comes from that. And more importantly, there's so much hope for me, especially hope, that comes from my perspective, knowing that, God has my life laid out. And knowing that, even when I get knocked out, proverbially punched in the face or rejected or talked about, all of these things, it's all part of God's divine plan,
That's really cool. And that makes me think of another question. I want to hear from both of you guys. Both of you, you have, if I had to put your stories in a movie genre, I'd put it into the action. It's, you guys just, both of you have so much action in your life. I mean, both been in the military, of course, but Remi, you've also had journeys in movies and writing a book. And Chad, you also got a book out there. You've got a ministry. You've been an MMA fighter. My question to you is when you're out there and speaking to folks, you run into someone who says, you know what, but what about me? I just feel like I'm a normal person. I haven't had some of those really big, my movie's not an action movie. I'm in the drama. I'm in the rom-com section. And can God do something with me? What do you tell to people from a different story background?
Yeah, I think if God can trust us with a little, then he'll trust us with a lot. And regardless of where you are in your life and what your occupation is, and me and Remi are two people that we've had some cool jobs, but they're just jobs. And it doesn't matter if you're a Force Recon Marine or a Navy SEAL or an actor or an MMA fighter or electrician. I mean, whatever job you're in, whatever occupation that you're in, whatever place you're in your life, God has a ministry around you to do every day. And if you can be trusted to minister to those around you, starting with your family, your friends, then I believe, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that God will use you for bigger things. But He's not going to use you for bigger things until you can be trusted with the things you have right in front of you. Mm-hmm. And I think so often I run into people all the time. I'll do a speaking event, and someone will come up to me after and say, they'll be kind of whining about their pastor not using them in their church to do this big ministry plan they have. And I'm like, well, what are you doing right now? What are you doing to minister the gospel right now, to reach out to the people that God has around you in your life? And I believe that's a shortfall for a lot of people that want to do ministry. They can't look at, they have a hard time. They're looking for a big thing. They're looking for a big picture. They can't look at the opportunities that God's putting right in front of them at that moment. And look, we can't ever get hung up on the identities of our jobs. I mean, while somebody might look at somebody like Remi and I and think it's a great opportunity to have the jobs that we've had, it could also be a stumbling block because we could be held back by the identity to say my life's for me, being a Force Recon Marine, being on a JSOC task force, going to Afghanistan 8 times, like that was my identity, and it almost crushed me. It almost everything for me because
that's a deep thought right there. Yeah.
Same thing. I tell kids all the time because I get the same thing. Oh, I wish I, went soft and did this. I'm like, dude, it's not everything, bro. It's not like every aspect of life. Like there's so much more to life. That's just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of life. But yeah, along those same lines, what Chad said is, Romans 12 says, just as our bodies have many parts, each part has a special function. So it is with Christ's body. That's just how I look at it. Every person, regardless of your occupation or your background or where you grew up, you all have we've all been strategically placed where we are, and we all been given specific gifts in that strategic placing. And we all have had experiences that I believe were strategic in order for us to be able to connect with specific people, right? Like there's people who you never were in Force Recon or SEAL, but there's people that you'll be able to connect with that Chad and I will never be able to connect with, right? There's a janitor at McDonald's who his life, his platform, his background, his experience, he'll be able to connect with those 3, 4, 5 important people that God wants him to connect with, to share his testimony with. Or be the hands and feet of Jesus that I will never be able to connect with. Like that's just the reality of life, and I truly believe that we're all here and we all have our experiences and because we're all part of one big mission, right? We're all part of one big mission. And so I would tell people where our mindset, like, your job is as important as my job. Like your background and your experiences are as important as my background and my experiences, because you're the I think about that movie Infinity War, when Doctor Strange at the end, when Iron Man says, how many outcomes did he win, or something like that, and he lifted his finger, he just said one, right? And then at the end war, right before Iron Man sacrifices himself, Doctor Strange reminds him, like, this is the one shot to defeat that. And there's some people that are just like, they don't realize it, like God is so good, in the way he hides things from us, but they're that one person that God has planned and placed in that place to be a light to another person or a group of people.
I love that, man. I have a couple rapid fire questions for you. All right. If our lives is a book, what's the name of the chapter you're each in right now?
The name of the chapter I'm reaching right now. Oh gosh.
I would just say God's favor, I would just say favor. I would title the chapter favor. And the reason why I say that is because with this whole COVID thing, like so many opportunities have come to me in this season where there's a lot of people that don't have the same opportunities I've been able to have, especially being able to provide for my family. And I lost a lot of work because of COVID. I'm sure Chad too, being a public speaker, you travel and you speak and that's a good income. And even the film and TV stuff that I was working on, some of that stuff had to go away because of the new COVID protocols. And but even in the midst of all that, like God showed himself strong in my life, and like he's continued to provide and open up doors. And so I would just simply title the chapter favor. Favor ain't free. Favor ain't fair.
I like that. I like that. How about you, Chad?
I think I titled it myself because and not inwardly towards me, but I think what this last year has really shown me, as I've re-struggled with things over this last year that I hadn't struggled with in years. I've had, I think everybody has had so much stress in their life over the last years, and I'm very susceptible and kind of maybe hypersensitive to any kind of, if I'm stressed over something and my mind kind of connects it back to old things, and so I'm really kind of felt some of those physiological symptoms and emotional kind of spiritual attacks, and it's really reconnected me to understanding what I went through and kind of brought like a fresh perspective and compassion. And now I know, like, the difference now is that I know I'm not alone. I know what to do now. I know how to respond to things in a biblical way to get out of those things, but it's also brought a fresh perspective to know that other people are dealing with those same things. And so I have this, like, something inside of me right now that's like really a real empathy inside of me for people that are struggling with depression and anxiety, knowing that suicide rate in our military right now during COVID lockdowns is up 30%. Like, this compassion is like kind of relit inside of me to pursue these guys that are dealing with the same thing that I deal. So when I say myself, like, those guys are me. Those guys are where I was. I know what it feels like. I know what they're feeling. I know how hopeless,
Been there.
I know how permanent that hopelessness feels to them. And so I have this like real empathy and passion right now that was reignited inside of me to go after these guys. And
I love it.
And it's just been from me struggling, kind of revisiting some of those own dark places myself.
I love it, guys. Well, I'm a big fan of both of you. For anyone who has not yet heard your stories, I just want to encourage you, please go on imsecond.com, watch their stories. Go get the book. It's called I Found Love. You can pre-order it. It comes out, hits stores everywhere, January 12th. You'll get their full stories there. These are awesome men, awesome stories, and you're going to want to hear about them and connect with them. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, bro. Good to see you, Chad.
Good to see you, man.